Bring in MSNBC's White House correspondent Von Hilliard back with us and foreign policy editor-in-chief Ravi Agrawal. Von, we touched on this a bit at the top, but now we're hearing from the president he's optimistic about closing the deal. We've heard this before. Is there a sense that things are different today?
The issue here, Anna, is that the president and his own relationship with Bibi Netanyahu have evolved so much in terms of what a potential peace plan would look like since the Israeli prime minister first came here to the White House in February. This is the two men's now fourth meeting here in Washington since Trump came into office here. And there is a 21-point plan that President Trump first presented to several Arab states early last week at the United Nations, including Qatar, the UAE, Turkey, Jordan, and Egypt. And part of this plan runs very much counter to what has been a key sticking point for Israel and for Netanyahu's government. And that has been that Bibi Netanyahu's position is that Israeli security forces must maintain control over Gaza as part of any solution here. But what this 21-point plan that President Trump is presenting to the prime minister here today would effectively give that security, the stabilization force authority to a mix of these Arab nations, and that over a period of time, the IDF must leave Gaza. And so this really also runs counter to even the first proposal back in 2020, led by Jared Kushner during the first Trump administration. The potential two-state solution peace plan presented by the president included even at that time that Israeli security forces would continue to maintain control in Gaza. And so there's a lot of questions here in terms of exactly what Netanyahu's willing to agree to. And then, even then, whether Hamas is really, truly willing to put their arms down and turn over the remaining hostages, which is also a part of this plan.
Yeah. Okay, Von Hilliard, thank you for that update. Ravi, President Trump says all are on board in the Middle East with this new proposal. What are your expectations for today's visit of Netanyahu to the White House, and how is it being viewed by the rest of the region?
So I don't think everyone's on board. I mean, first of all, Hamas basically said on Sunday that they haven't even actually seen the official 21-point plan from the Trump administration. Part of what's going on here, of course, is that when Israel did try to take out Hamas leadership in Doha, Qatar, which has been the main go-between in negotiations over the last almost 2 years now, they haven't been negotiating on behalf of Hamas for the last few days. So everything that we're hearing right now coming out of the Trump administration and these negotiations, they do not effectively involve Palestinian representation. I think that's very important to keep in mind as we look at whether Hamas is going to agree to this or not.
Ravi, what do you know about the relationship right now between President Trump and Netanyahu? Just how critical is Trump's role in all these negotiations?
The relationship is strained. I think, today what we will see out of the White House may be a show of bonhomie, a show of friendship. But I know from speaking to officials on both sides that the relationship has begun to get strained. This is partly because when President Trump said last week that he will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank, this is something that Netanyahu is struggling to get on board with because it would be unpopular among key elements of his right-wing coalition in Israel. In fact, there were leaders of the Israeli settler movement who were in New York over the last few days trying to pressure Netanyahu to push back against that very statement from Trump. So you may see some of those fissures emerge. Either way, Netanyahu is battling several forces at home as he tries to keep his government together. And any recognition of even this 21-point plan would mean that some of the furthest right-wing elements of his government could defect.
Ravi Agrawal, thank you for helping us understand some of those regional dynamics and relationship dynamics, too, that will be on display today. Up next here on Ana Cabrera Reports, keeping score after James Comey's indictment, President Trump says he wants justice, not revenge. Do his words and actions say otherwise? And who could face pressure next? Plus, Quantico countdown. Why?